Hi everyone, I'm Julie Waters with Glendale 11, your City Connection. The City of Glendale is asking for feedback from residents about the upcoming budget for next fiscal year. Traditionally, each spring, city staff prepares a budget for the mayor and council to review and approve. There are two different ways you can provide input on the budget. You can submit your comments online at glendaleaz.com or contact your council member or the mayor. Their contact information is also online. In this short video, you will hear from Glendale's Executive Director of Financial Services, Sherry Sherhammer, who will give a budget overview.
Good evening, everyone. I do have a few slides I'd like to take you through that provides you kind of a big picture overview of the city's budget. And I'll focus on those city services that are probably most important to the residents and to the business community. To start, I do want to mention, like Ms. Waters had mentioned, that we're talking about the proposed fiscal year 2014 budget. That begins July 1 of this year, and it ends June 30th of next year. So it's for that 12-month period. I also want to let you know that there are reductions that are in this proposed budget, but the reductions that are in here are all vacant positions. That means they're positions that are not filled now, and no layoffs would occur based on the reductions that are included in this proposed budget. Another way to look at the reductions is to say that the services that we're providing right now, today, based on the positions that are filled today, are those that will continue into next fiscal year. So Mayor and Council will provide final direction on the proposed 14 budget in April in any changes that it wishes to see to that proposed budget. The public's input is always welcome, and of course that's why we're having this meeting and the one on the 4th. Then we're also having at least one more budget workshop, perhaps two, in council chambers. And then as Ms. Waters mentioned, there's an online way for you to provide feedback also. Okay, this first slide is a pie chart. Illustrates the proposed 14 operating budget for the city. It totals almost $331 million. And the focus of this pie chart is the funding source, not the type of service funded. Now, why do we focus on funding source? Because the funding source pretty much drives what services can be supported. The city has anywhere from 80 to 100 different funds that are set up to cover expenses of various types. Some funds are restricted to very specific types of uses, while other funds can be used for a broader range of services. For example, your monthly service fee that both residents and businesses pay for water and sewer services, those monthly service fees funds things like primarily your water and sewer services. Same with your sanitation collection fee. The fee that you pay every month, that pays for your sanitation collection services. Now, the general fund is the city's largest operating fund at $125 million. So you can see it makes up about 38% of the total operating budget for the city. Now, the funding sources for the general fund are much more sensitive to economic conditions. It's funded primarily by sales taxes, city and state sales taxes, and state income tax. And those are very, during good economic times, they perform very well. During recessions, they can significantly drop. And that's what we saw through this last recession. What's important to note about the general fund, as the city's largest operating fund, it also covers the expenses of the majority of city operations, including about 70 to 80% of the police and fire operational costs, all of code compliance, most of parks, recreation, and library services, and most internal operations like information technology. Water and sewer is the next largest fund at about $47 million. Because the general fund is the largest operating fund, most of our budget discussions focus on the general fund. This next pie chart has the same bottom line total of about $331 million that we showed you on the prior slide. So it's 331, 331. This time the pie chart focuses on the type of service rather than the funding source. So regardless of funding source, it's broken out by the type of services that's provided. You will see that police and fire operating funds total $112 million, or about 34% of the $331 million bottom line. So public safety makes up a good third of our total operating budget, regardless of funding source. Police itself makes up about 23% at $76 million. And then we have water services at 13%, or about $44 million. Now, it's not surprising that water services comes in second here, and that's because water services, in terms of total funding, requires extensive capital assets to operate not only the water side, but the sewer collection side. And then the city's Public Works Department, which comes in next, provides direct services such as trash and recycling collection and landfill disposal. That total budget comes in at just under $40 million, and then fire services comes next. Now, when you go to the general fund, which I mentioned earlier is the city's largest operating fund, and the general fund is where approximately 70–80% of both police and fire are funded. You'll see that reflected here, because this is just the general fund, but it focuses on the types of services within the general fund. So as you can see, both police and fire comprise about 63% of the $125 million. And the fact that police and fire are allocated 63% of the general fund tells us of the importance of those services to the community. The next three departments in terms of general fund funding are Parks, Recreation, and Libraries, Public Works, and Financial Services. They make up about another 18%, or about $23 million. So overall, you have 5 departments that make up 81%, or just over $100 million out of the $125 million general fund budget. And again, the focus here is on the general fund because it's the largest operating budget that we have. Okay, next up is the police department. Sometimes we're asked, why don't you allocate more money for police or fire services? Well, as I mentioned earlier, both police and fire, 70–80% of the funds that fund them, those services, is the general fund. So it's those economically sensitive revenues like sales taxes and income taxes. Aside from the general fund, what you'll see here for police is that the public safety sales tax is the next largest funding source. That's the voter-approved half-cent sales tax for both police and fire. It's split 2/3 police, 1/3 fire. And so 90% of the police department total operating budget is either the general fund or the public safety sales tax fund, all of which are economically sensitive funding sources. The same is true with the fire department. However, instead of 90% coming from general fund and the public safety sales tax fund, here it's almost 96% that comes from those two areas. And the total fire department budget is $36.1 million. Now, some information that might be of most interest to both businesses and residents for next fiscal year. No rate increases are planned. So you'll see no changes to your residential sanitation collection rate or your water or sewer rates. And then in the past, we've also received public input on the services that are listed here, and we wanted to confirm that what is on here remains true for 14, that both Rose Lane Aquatic Center and Foothills Aquatic Center will be open for the summer. Library hours, as they are today, will remain unchanged. The parks will remain open for use as they are today. CAT team services will continue to be provided as they are today. The same is true with the fire crisis response services. All special events, those that are held in downtown Glendale, will continue in FY14 with the exception of the Jazz and Blues Festival. Council directed staff to discontinue that event beginning with the current fiscal year. Yes. and that Glendale 11 will continue to do its TV broadcasts. Now, as far as next steps, we have today for public input, and then this Thursday. Tomorrow, at the council workshop in the council chambers, public safety will be addressed, both police and fire. It will be their budgets as well as baseline services. Of course, the public is welcome to attend those workshops, or you can watch them on Glendale 11. A budget workshop is scheduled for April 9th. It's possible that may or may not occur. We will definitely have one on April 16th. The follow-up issues that will occur somewhere between April 9th and the 16th are, we need to talk about the capital improvement plan and the secondary property tax rate, as well as decisions for the general fund budget for next fiscal year. And with that, I bring the presentation to a close, and I believe Ms. Waters is coming back up to lead the rest of the meeting. Thank you.
That was Sherry Sherhammer, the City of Glendale's Executive Director of Financial Services. Once again, the city is looking for comments about the upcoming budget. All comments will be forwarded to the city manager's office and the mayor and council. Go online to glendaleaz.com and fill out a comment card, or contact your council member or the mayor. Their information is also on the city website. For Glendale 11, I'm Julie Waters.